everybody. Welcome back to the Who's Your Band podcast. I'm joined by my good buddy and co-host, Sean Morton. How are you, Sean?
Oh, I'm just wonderful, Jeffrey. How are you?
I'm great, man. And you know what I'm great about? I feel great about that we are joined by one of our special guests today. You've seen this guy on MTV, True TV, host of the J Train and Freid at Noon podcast. Jared Freid, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here. How are you guys?
We're doing good. How about you?
I'm okay. Just enjoying a nice quarantine.
You really you're really sporting that Freddie Mercury look these days.
Yeah, I went with the mustache. I shaved earlier, so it's really popping right now. I got some good lighting.
Very 80s gay look.
He could actually play Freddie Mercury if you really look at it. Like you really could.
I wish I could. I don't have the body for it, but I appreciate it. I think he's, it's a fine look. I kind of was like, why not? If not now, when do I grow my mustache?
That's exactly right. This is the time to take some shots and chances, with your appearance. Couple of questions. We don't have you for a very long time, so I want to get started. Great comedian. I've seen Jared. He's great.
Thanks,
man. Where did you get your start in comedy?
I started in New York. I started in the city. So
you're originally from Boston, though, right?
I'm from outside of Boston, and I went to Penn State. But then after school, I came to New York, and that's why I asked you before we started. I asked about your shirt. And then after school, I came to New York to work, and I just started, writing funny emails to friends, and that became more of occupied more of my time than my actual job at the time. So I was pursuing that, and started taking classes and started doing open mics, and now 10 years later, sitting here in a quarantine with you on a Zoom, so that's how the normal progression is.
What was the job that you had?
I sold life insurance and annuities, so I was running around cold calling. Yeah. So cold calling and meeting with people, trying to figure. And at the time it was it's funny because it's reminiscent of now. It was financial collapse 2007, the summer 2007. Going into that fall when Bear Stearns is going down and all that stuff. So the atmosphere, the kind of where does the world go next-ness of it kind of reflects what we're going through now.
Where did you do your first open mic, first time you got on stage?
I went to Penny's open mic on St. Mark's, which I was told, it's interesting because it kind of reflects a little bit of comedy. I was told that was the most open and inviting open mic. So I was okay, that'll be the place I do my first open mic. But I didn't realize open and inviting to any weirdo, but not really kid from the suburbs looking guy who just worked in finance. So you could go there and scream for your 7 minutes and people would go, whoa. But if I talked about dating, it was what are you bragging? It was very weird. So that was my first one. I remember it just didn't go well, but it was a Tuesday night and I'm there till 2 a.m. and this was kind of beyond what I was used to. So it was more of oh wow, there's a whole nother thing going on. I didn't realize there was a whole scene. I just was I'll go do an open mic, and that was it. So then I did Penny's open mic, and it was music and screaming and poetry and some stand-up. And I tried and didn't go well, but I tried again.
I remember running into you at the mics. I remember you at the mics at Eastville, and it's amazing how you kind of shot up the ranks the way you did. So question is, when did you get your first big break and what was it?
Oh, I don't know if there was I've been pretty consistent. I don't know. I've always been I think when we'd see each other at Eastville, I was always, I always kind of, I think it's kind of,
you always went up early. And you always went up early.
Well, that's kind of what I was gonna say is that I treated to me, I was I have to how do I turn stand up and getting better at it into a regimented mathematical type of thing? And I had heard Bill Burr say on like a podcast, like he just tries to get 1 new minute a week. And I was like, that's a good way to look at it, because and he was saying, if you get 1 new minute a week, you'll have 52 minutes in a year. That's an hour. And I was like, okay, that takes kind of the emotion out of it, where you're like, I suck. It's like, okay, but I got that new minute. I have that new thing that I didn't have last week. This week was a win. So I kind of like stayed to that, where it's like, what's the new minute?
That's easier said than done, though.
Well, you know what? The way I kind of rationalized it was, if I have a new minute a week in 52 weeks, let's say 20 minutes of it is good and workable and usable. Okay, that's 20 minutes. It took me 52 weeks to get to 20 minutes. That's okay. But I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't go for the 52, and maybe next year will be better. Maybe next year's 52 minutes will turn into 22 good minutes. And for me, I've always saw this as a career and always thought of this as starting my own business. And I've never, and some of that makes me sound less fun when I talk about it, but it's what helps me go, take away some of the emotional aspects of doing this. So, you do 52 minutes a week. And then to me, I was like, okay, but I have to get on stage 3 times a night in the beginning. That was another thing I was told. So if you get on stage 3 times a night at 3 different open mics. So I used to go to Eastville and I'd bring with me a pad of paper and a piece of tape, and I would tape up the list and put myself first so that I could do a 5 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, and a 7 o'clock, and I'd be done by 8, 9 o'clock, and now I got my 3 in. So like this was like all to math it out and like and trying to figure out how, and just with the goal of being better. And then also during the day I was always like looking for opportunities online. I think right now you guys have a podcast. That's great. Like I started my podcast 7 years ago because I love podcasts and I felt like I was late. So, now looking back, I'm like, people will look at me and go, wow, 7 years ago. I'm like, at the time I was like, man, I'm so late to this podcast thing. So and then, over 7 years, there's been good times, bad times. There's been slow months, good months, you have better. So I think for me, it's been being consistent and always starting my own things. Like I've never waited for if I waited for someone to cast me in a sitcom, guess who'd still be waiting? So it's like, I'm gonna do, and also like anytime I'm having fun with something and enjoying it, how do I package that? What does that turn into? What's the show? What's the thing that, can maybe get you paid one day? So like I started talking about literally a tweet. This is an example, but like I tweeted about charcuterie over the last summer. Now I've become known by some people as a guy who talks shit on charcuterie. Like this is like a dumb thing, but people liked it so much that I was like, and I like doing it and I like talking shit that like, that becomes something that I'm like, okay, how do I make my own charcuterie show or how do I translate that to Instagram? So it's like, figuring out things that I enjoy doing that the audience also enjoys and kind of figuring out like, how do I weaponize it? That's kind of always been my thought.
I think it's great because, a lot of people don't understand, like everybody starts off somewhere, but if you are serious about something, you have to treat it like a business.
Yeah.
It's very, very true. I mean, everybody's path is different. Like you're saying, you did open mics 3 nights a week. Like I was very different when I started. I mean, I was, you guys
every night, 3 a night, every night. I don't want to get yeah.
No, sure. I mean, but like a lot of people, I mean, I don't personally work in the city a lot, and I see so many people who, after 8, 9, 10 years, finally went on the road and did like a hosting gig on the road for the week. And I did that in 9 months. So everybody's path is very, very different. But I'm glad you brought up the business aspect because people don't realize that there's a very fine line between doing it as a hobby and doing it as a professional.
Yeah, it's to me that was always the goal. How do I be able to live off of being funny? So that and keeping that in mind that like you're doing a thing that doesn't really matter. No one needs you to do this. No one needs you to go on stage. No one needs you to start a podcast. No one needs you to tweet. So having those things in your head and being realistic. Like, you know, a big break, like I did some, you know, I don't really know. Like, I think a big break has been, I don't know, like figuring out that
getting maybe on MTV, because that kind I remember when you got what was it, Philosophy or something? Remember that?
yeah,
Guy
I did that. Yeah, I never did that Guy Code. I like missed the cut. I kind of missed the window. I think I got in. You know, I didn't like even audition for that. But I did a show on MTV. But like that MTV show, they were going to use something that I had put out online on Facebook. If Facebook Invites could talk, I made this like with a friend of mine. We made a video where people used to send out Facebook invites. And the Facebook invites, I was like, what if the invitation could talk? And I did the girl and Chris Stefano did the guy. And I like,
I remember that.
Yeah, and I wrote it up and it's probably still online somewhere on one of my pages. But when I put that up, then I get contacted by, you know, oh, we're doing a show and we're going to do a thing like that. So why don't you like it wasn't like I, you know, like they were going to like use the idea. So that I think they felt bad and they put me in it. So like, it was again, this is all like self-starting, trying to figure out like if I enjoy doing something, put the time and effort into it, and hopefully people enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing it.
Now you're a big sports guy too, aren't you?
I like sports. I enjoy, you know, I'm a Celtics fan. I like Patriots probably more than anything. Penn State football.
Really?
I love the Patriots. Yeah. What? Should I find new parents to bring me up a different way?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you don't like success?
No, I don't. I'm a Jet fan. I'm a Met fan. I'm a Nets fan. Okay, I'm an Islanders fan.
Yeah.
Life hasn't been good to me.
That's okay. Some people have it easier than others. That life sucks.
Yes, my life sucks.
Somebody asked me the other day who was like the 5 greatest athletes in their sports. And so I go, obviously I go Michael Jordan, I go Babe Ruth, I went Wayne Gretzky, and nobody gives a shit about soccer, so we skipped over that one. And I said Tom Brady, and they looked at me like, you're a Giants fan. I go, it doesn't make a difference if I'm a Giants fan or not. The guy's fucking phenomenal. You know what I mean? He really is.
It's tough to rate a football like athlete just because it's so specialized. Like, I'm a huge Brady fan. It's going to be weird for me to see him in Tampa Bay, but it's kind of like, it feels like my dad got a divorce and he's trying to act young. Like, it kind of feels like that, where it's like, I love my dad, but I'm kind of like keeping my distance from my dad, that type of thing. Yeah. Like he's wearing like sneakers with jeans and the shirts with the pastels under the cuffs. Like, I feel like that's what Brady is in his life. So you know, as far as the greatest football player, like Brady's story to me is inspiring. Like, this guy was the 4th stringer on the Patriots. Before that, he was playing for Michigan. They tried to get him. He was splitting time after he had won a Big Ten championship. Like this guy, like, he wasn't always dating Giselle. Like, his story is actually like pretty wild, you know, to like if you look at him compared to like other successful quarterbacks.
Sure.
Hey, Jared, you're a pretty smart guy. You're around a lot. With everything that's going on, do you see sports coming back anytime?
Yeah, I think there's too much money to be made. Follow the money. Like, I think like you even hear it now. They're gonna do like basketball or baseball was like, we're gonna bring back baseball. There's going to be no, like, and if someone gets COVID, okay, he'll be taken away and we'll watch the rest of the team. It's like, yeah, that's what people do when there's a lot of money at stake, is they rationalize. So I think baseball is going to rationalize just like football, just like there's too much, you know, just like the bank's too big to fail. I think so is sports, where there's a way to make money, there's a way. So I don't know if it'll be right, like, quote unquote, like the right way, but I just think that they will come back.
Yeah. And listen, our podcast is called Who's Your Band? We talk about music primarily, and you turned Sean and I onto a great band, dude.
You didn't know about them?
St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Didn't hear of them. Put them on. They're fucking great.
Aren't they great?
They're great.
I'm not like a big music person at all. I'd be lying. I don't like, that's not my thing. Like I'm very much like if I hear it and like it, so like top 40 could be playing. If I'm tapping my toe, I don't care. Like I'm a music pig. I'll eat anything. But I heard St. Paul and the Broken Bones do a set on Letterman before
That's right.
Letterman. And you can find that online. And
I
it was
saw
such
it.
like, it's so good. It's such, it had, I like, so what I've come to find from my own music taste, which is not very smart or very knowledgeable at all, is that I just like instruments. Like I just like hearing instruments. It just feels good to hear that. And it puts me in a mood.
Right, and they have the horns.
They got the horns. They got, you know, this guy who doesn't look like a front man, and he's got the weird glasses. And they had that "Call Me" song, and I listened to that, and I kind of just went and like searched them out from, you know, from iTunes or from Apple Music, and so now I listen to them. Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Night Sweats. I like them. So like, yeah, thanks to the algorithm, you know, like it's like taking me into like that section of music I just happen to like.
Yeah, I had a friend who was really into them, and he's more into that vibe of like the like Nathaniel Rateliff, Alabama Shakes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he sent it to me about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, I heard the name, I never heard of him, and then like it was on my like I have like a little cheat notes of like when my friends tell me what to listen to and stuff, and it's on there. And then I got the email saying this is your band. I'm like, you know, I gotta check this out. And I mean, 4 hours today. That's all I listened to all day.
They're great.
They're so good. So good.
It puts me in a mood, you know, like, and I sometimes, you know, there's different music for different moods.
Sure.
For this one, it's just like, I don't know, the horns, maybe the horn, I don't know what it is.
It's the horns. It's the guy's voice. He sounds like Otis Redding meets CeeLo Green.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he and I've tried to go see them. They were in New York, and I got tickets, and I ended up having to miss it because I had shows come up. And I definitely still I just have this vision of seeing them in a bar. Like, of course they're bigger than that, but I like the music makes me think of seeing them in a bar where I'm drinking from a plastic cup. It's kind of sweaty, and you're having a whiskey drink, and you're just like having fun at like a Roadhouse type of bar, like, and it puts me in that kind of mood.
Yeah, they're a little bit of like a throwback too, because when I'm listening to them, I'm like I'm writing down notes on who comes to mind, who they remind me of. I'm thinking Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and the song that really stood out to me was Like a Mighty River.
Yeah, that's a great song. And see, that's the thing. Like I'm such like, you guys are passionate, and that's great. I'm such a music like nothing. like my girlfriend is the biggest music fan. She loves Fish, the Grateful Dead. I went with her to a Fish concert, and I kind of like was like fly in the wall, just like, let's see what this is all about. Like, of course, Fish fans have their reputation, but it was like, it was a lot of fun. It was like a very nice time. And it's like I would like, it's interesting when I see like fans. You don't want to like, I don't want to like, you know, I don't want to appropriate someone else's fandom, you know, like because like I'm just like, the way I came across this band, it is one of those things that like I could be like, yeah, you know, I love the instrumentals, but like I just like how it sounds, you know, it puts me in a good mood.
Hey, what's your favorite song by St. Paul and the Broken Bones?
What's the one I like? This is again like it's the way I consume music. When I hear fans, I'm always like, man, I wish I like even thought to remember. Like I like the newer. I like that one, the Call Me song.
I think that's the big hit, right? That's their first big hit.
That's their first big hit. But there was another song that
How about Flow With? What about Flow With It?
I like that. I'm trying to see. Young Sick Camilla is their new album. And I like, is it Hurricanes or Mr. Invisible?
Mr. Invisible.
I think that's the one.
Now, they've only had 3 albums out, correct?
Yes, only 3.
Hmm. I kind of see them, well, not this year, obviously, but doing like the whole festival scene.
I see
I,
that.
they were touring big time, and I was like really wanted to see them, and just to see what a concert with them was like, you know.
My friend saw them in New York, I think at the Bowery Electric, like a really
That's where I had tickets to.
That's a
and,
great venue.
And he said it was just like ridiculously off the hook. And this guy goes to like huge Dave Matthews festivals and, you know, every huge band like that, you know, again, the Fish concerts and stuff like that. And he said it was one of the best shows he's seen in a very long time.
Yeah, man. That's like nice. You know, it's funny. It's like when you become a fan of anything, you just want to hear good things back. Like you want to hear that they're cool. You want to hear that the concert was well done. You know, like, you know, you want to hear that their shows were good. It's like nice to hear that.
Oh, I agree. The funny part was I texted a bunch of friends today and said, have you heard of this band? And a couple were like, yeah, I've heard the name, blah, blah, blah. And I sent them the video for Call Me. And one replied back and said, great song, couldn't look at it. The guy reminded me too much of Ricky from Better Off Dead.
Ricky who?
Ricky from Better Off Dead, the movie.
It's so funny how like that stuff like takes over for people. Like some people are just like, I don't like the look of it. Goodbye. You know, like it's like over for them.
I thought it was really, really funny when I heard that though, because the guy truly does. If you really look at it side by side, the guy looks just like him.
Well, now I gotta look.
Oh yeah, it's great.
We are joined by radio host, comedian, actor, author, Goumba Johnny Solano. Hey, John.
How are you? What's up, Jeffrey?
Good to see you. Hey, do you know Sean Morton and Jared Freid?
Yes. I don't know Sean as well as I know Jared. But,
what's up, Johnny? How are you?
I have to tell you, you made me laugh the other day. I saw you on Instagram, and you were commenting on. You had a comment on some guy wrote this girl. I'm dying to taste you.
Oh my God! It was so.
Yeah.
Someone right into the podcast. I'm dying to taste you, and it was the grossest thing. It was so off-putting.
Yeah,
it's like
they weren't even talking to you, and you were offended. That's what I.
Yeah, it was because it was like they're dirty talking. Yeah.
I know, and then after I read that, I skipped lunch. So I want to thank you for that.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Good to see everybody.
Jared, thank you very much, man.
Thank you so much, Jared.
Thank you. Have fun.
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Hey, a lot of questions, so let's just get into it right away. One thing, okay, so radio host, comedian, actor, author, but I don't think people know this about you, John. You had a chance to play pro football, yes?
Yeah, when I got out of college, I signed a free agent contract with the Jets, and then the next year I signed a contract with the Giants.
Where'd you play in college?
I went to a very small teachers college in upstate New York called Brockport State University.
Sure. And did you like you wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah, you know, oddly enough, this is even stranger than my football pursuits. I ended up getting a degree in science.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, which is not talked about a lot. It's not. I'm Goumba Johnny. I'm not the scientist, Johnny. So.
You're the low-key, most fascinating guy in comedy entertainment. What position did you play in football?
Well, I went to college, and I was a defensive tackle in college, and then I.
Wow.
Oddly enough, when I was a junior in college, my coach told me we didn't have a big college. I mean, I was Division III. We only had 500 people come to our games. So I was going into my senior year, and my coach said, you know, somebody from the Seahawks called us up yesterday, and they wanted to know about you. They wanted to know what you weighed and so on and so forth. And, you know, and I'm like, why would they call here? You know what I mean? And he started laughing. So he goes, no, I think you might have a chance to sign on with a team. You're going to have to gain some weight. So I think at the time I was like 245, and I gained an additional 20 pounds. I played the next year like at 260, 265.
I guess
And,
back then that was what a defensive tackle probably would have weighed, right?
well, when I got to the Jets, they switched me to offensive guard. So I had to switch. Not only was I the first person to sign a professional contract, so I'm told, out of that college, I got switched positions, and I got switched to offense, and it was very interesting because I was
coaching the Jets.
Walt Michaels. I was rookies with Marty Lyons.
Right, yeah.
I was rookie with Marty Lyons and Mark Gastineau. My locker was in between this, which was pretty funny because everybody knew who they were, and they're like, "Who's the guy in the middle?" But it was funny. It was interesting. It was good. I mean, it was. I came from I played such a small brand of football, and I switched positions, so the speed of the game was a little bit too much for me at the time. And then the next year I signed with the Giants, and I got hurt. We were playing the Patriots in the Yale Bowl in the exhibition season, and I had a neck injury, and that was it.
And what did you make the get into first? Was it radio or stand up?
I managed a comedy club in the '80s in Westchester, and I had to get up on stage one time because people didn't show up. So, like, in other words, when I managed the club, that was like at the height of the comedy hysteria. We had everybody out there. We were just a local club in Yonkers, but we had anybody who's anybody today, literally played at our place. And one day somebody didn't show up, and I started to host. And then I realized if I host, because I was managing the club, I could take that additional money and get better headliners whenever I chose to host. So I did that, and then for a while, and then I stopped. I got into the nightclub business for 8 years. Then I accidentally got into the radio business. And then once I got into the radio business, I decided to, diversify and do some stand-up comedy.
And where were you from? Were you from that Westchester area?
Born and raised in the Bronx, and then we moved to Yonkers.
Oh, okay.
So they call that bro-yo when you're Bronx Yonkers.
Gotcha. And you're up on stage, you're watching all these great comedians. Who were some of your influences?
Number one, John Mulrooney.
Oh, still around.
It's amazing. John
Mulrooney. He gets so mad at me when I tell this story because I can't tell you how much I enjoy his sense of humor. And I watched him on stage, and I saw a little bit of myself in him. And I said to myself, I think I could do it. I have some common ground with this guy. You know what I mean? He just inspired me. And years later, I told him, I said, John, I saw you up on stage once. And I said, well, if he could do it, I can do it. He goes, what kind of compliment is that? And we both started laughing, but I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. I worked with him once or twice, and
yeah, I know you. Yeah. He's just he could be one of the wittiest person ever to take the stage. I mean, his crowd work, his improv, his ad-libbing is just amazing.
Yeah, he's one of those guys when you work with him and you think you have a good set and you're on cloud nine, then you're in the back of the room and you're having a drink and you try to enjoy it, and then he goes up and 3 minutes in you start questioning why the hell you ever started doing stand-up ever in the first place. Yeah.
It's funny you said that, Sean, because I had that experience with Pat Cooper. I opened up for Pat Cooper for a while. And the first time that I opened up for Pat Cooper was in a theater in Randolph, New Jersey. It was about 1,000 people. And he goes, he comes up and he goes, look at you, you friggin' moron. He goes, do you have 20 minutes? I said, well, yeah, no, I got 20 minutes. He goes, can you do 30? I said, no, I can do 30. He goes, well, then do 25. Right? So I said, okay. I said, I'll do 25. He goes, and don't fuck it up. So the place is packed. I go out there. My mother's in the crowd. I mean, so as the comedy gods would have it, I probably had one of the top 5 sets of my life. I did 30 minutes, and it was just, I don't know, whatever was in the air, I just couldn't do anything wrong. I was so proud of myself. I went to the back of the audience, right behind all the 1,000 people, and I wanted to watch Pat Cooper. And I introduced him, and he comes out there, and he made my set look like an open mic set. and he just he did an hour, and he destroyed, I mean, beyond. And I just went, and I remember driving home going, I got a long way to go. I got a long way to go. You know what I mean? And it was so humbling, you know what I mean? To see somebody so professional, you know, to let me know how much further away I am from being that pro. And
I'm a huge fan of Pat Cooper, and when I watch, you know, and listen to, like, I even have a lot of his records too. And
Yeah.
when you listen to it and you watch it, you realize how many people really are influenced by him.
Oh yeah,
As far as the local Italian comics and things like that, you really see,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Sean, he's the godfather of Italian comedy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just no doubt about it. I mean, there's a lot of people today who don't know who he is,
Yeah.
you know, and don't know anything about him. You know, without Pat Cooper, there's no Sebastian.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, there's no me, there's no Victor Pettitetto, there's none of these guys. You know what I mean? He, you know, Italian comedy, I mean, you got to give credit to Sebastian, because Italian American comedy, I mean, he put a lot of comedians on the map.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Italian comedy was never, you know, the flavor of the day until, you know, Sebastian, you know, just blew up like a balloon. You know, now people see it.
Sure.
Hey, John, when did you make the transition from stand-up then to radio, and how did you make that transition?
It was around 90. It was 96, and a buddy of mine from LA was auditioning for KTU in New York, and he asked me if I wanted to go on the air with him and help him, and I didn't want to do it. So he said, please, I need a favor. I'll give you $100. You know, it's for a week. I'll give you $100 a day. And I'm like, I said, I'll give you 200 and I'll get somebody else. How's that? I said, I'm not waking up at, 4 o'clock in the morning to go over and do that. I don't want to do it, because I wasn't looking to get in the radio. So I did it after a week. He was a good friend, so I did it. I wouldn't take any money from him, nothing like that. So we did it, and then after the thing, the station director told me, he goes, you guys aren't right or ready for mornings. He goes, but I'd love to give you the nighttime show over here at KTU from 6 to 10. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm not really looking for a job, to be honest with you, you know. So at the time I was running a nightclub in Manhattan. So he says, look, he goes, I've been in radio my whole life. He goes, this is what you're supposed to do with your life. This is your life's work. He goes, I know you don't understand that. And I said, he goes, I don't have a lot of money to give you. He goes, I can get you in the door. He goes, but trust me, you're supposed to do this. So he goes, you know, think about this. So I went home and I was like, I never had anybody speak like this to me. It was like a moment of clarity. I traditionally listened to no one. And I went home and I said, wow. I said, I can't ignore this. And I said, you know, the money's not what I want or what I want to do. I said, okay, you know, I'm going to do it. So I took the job and we went on at night. And then we became the #1 station. We had the #1 nighttime show. And then after 2 years, you know, they gave me a mornings.
Do you remember his name?
Oh, the program director?
Yes.
Oh, he's famous. Frankie Blue, yeah.
Very famous program director. Did he also do Z100 for years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Frankie. Yeah, so he, you know, he goes, I've done this my whole life. And, you know, for him to speak like that to me, you know, so I said, okay. You know, and I mean, I had some experience in radio before, but nothing, I never thought that, to be honest with you, I thought, my radio career would probably go maybe 2 years, and then I ended up like being there like 17 or whatever it was. I didn't think I was going to last that long. So I'm very grateful for it, and it worked out perfectly. And, it helped my comedy career and everything else I did. So it was good. It really worked out nicely.
And speaking of everything else you did, something else I found out about you. You were an actor on a soap opera?
Yeah, a couple of soaps, yeah. Yeah.
Which ones? I think I know.
One Life to Live, and I think Days of Our Lives, and something else. A couple of times I played myself.
And you're acting a lot now. Didn't you just finish?
Well, I'm doing more. I have to say, you know yourself, Jeffrey. I've been very blessed with my radio career. That literally fell in my lap. My comedy career I love and I worked on, and I've been fortunate with that. Acting for me has been like walking in 8 feet of mud. Every inch, I have to tell you, and I'm not crying, I've never gotten a break. Everything I've done, I've has been like that 1 inch at a time, 1 inch at a time. And I love it. I really love it. But I haven't experienced those blessings that I had in my other careers, but that's not going to stop me from doing it.
Did you have that one moment in your career where like your family said to you like, wow, you've really made it?
Oh yeah. My mother came back. I was on KTU. I had the morning show. It was in early 2000s. And my mother goes, "You'll never believe what happened." I said, "What?" She goes, "I went to get my hair done and they wouldn't charge me because I was Goumba Johnny's mother."
That's great.
And I'm like, really? Really? I said that.
I had 2 of them, Johnny. I had 2 of them. Right. The first one was the night that I got inducted into the Friars Club.
Oh, that's a big deal.
And I brought my mom with me and my wife. And then my mom texted me. I was on the 5th floor or 4th floor, and she's in the basement. And my text was, "Okay, this is pretty fucking cool." That's the only acknowledgement. Now I have a second one. My godmother, who is like my second mother in the world,
right,
texted me the other day, and she was like, how's everything going? I know you're not doing comedy. I'm like, yeah, it's tough. She's only seen me like perform twice in 12 years. And she goes, "Hey, what's this podcast that you're doing?" And I start telling her, I'm like, "Yeah, we interview comics, we interview artists." She goes, "Well, who's on the show?" And I tell her some of the people, and she goes, I never heard of him. I go, "Well, we have Goumba Johnny coming on next week." And she goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." And she started freaking out for 4 minutes. I'm like, all right, I guess I made it. So
well,
I need to know when it's on. I just tell him I said hello. I used to listen to KTU. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Sean, I got to tell you a funny story. Somebody introduced me. We were somewhere. I was on the radio, and it's probably at the height of my career. And somebody goes, "Do you know who this is?" And that's always embarrassing. And she goes, "No." He goes, "That's Goumba Johnny." So the woman goes, "You're not Goumba Johnny." I said, "No, yes, no, he's right, I am." She goes, "You're not Goumba Johnny." I said, "No, miss, please." She goes, "You are not Goumba Johnny." And I said, "Miss, if I was going to impersonate a celebrity, it would not be Goumba Johnny." Trust me. I said, I'm no big deal. And that's one of the good things about radio, Sean. When you're on the radio, people don't treat you like you're a celebrity. They listen to you 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, or at least an hour a day, or whatever it is. And they know what color your car is. They know your mother's name. You're their friend.
Right.
So as like being like a celebrity, I don't really think I've ever experienced that. I mean, I could tell you one thing. I've never felt that way. Like, hey, I was a big deal or something like that. Although I felt like I was a big deal because, when I was on the radio, I got to interview a lot of people who were very, very famous.
Well,
And,
it's a great thing about staying humble too, and I preach that with everybody. As long as you
yeah.
keep staying humble, the good things will always keep coming to you, always keep coming your way.
Now,
Yeah,
John,
and I've done a lot of things, and I have to say, and I think Jeffrey will agree with this, that all the organizations and groups and everything that I've done in my life, including sports, I am most proud of being a comedian. It's the greatest group of people. It's not perfect, but it's almost perfect. It's the greatest group of people, the camaraderie that I've ever been associated with. It's the only job I've ever had where you can like come off stage and then somebody will say to you, "My God, I wish I wrote that joke," and actually mean it. Like, like in other words, that was fantastic, and it's just men and women. It's just it's a great group of people. The
I agree.
comedians,
You got to
yeah, very,
remember too, like we're all a little touched if we do comedy. We're all not right in some way. So if
yes,
you take like 10 people who are just not right in some way and you put them all together, we kind of understand each other. And we
yeah,
kind of understand why we do this, how we get into the mindset of doing this, what we
yeah.
go through when we're not doing well. We all understand that. So yeah, we definitely gravitate towards each other. I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I love comedians, and when there's like a half a dozen comedians around, kicking around punchlines, there's nothing better than that. Just shooting the crap and just telling story after story. It's great. Comedians are fantastic.
they are. I want to steer this a little bit more towards the music side because that's what we do on this show. We talk music, and when I was going back and forth with you, it was really hard to trying to pigeonhole you into who your favorite band was. So we kind of generalized with genres of music, and you're a big freestyle guy and a classic rock guy. Very,
Yeah,
very different.
yeah, very different. I mean, the freestyle I was totally reinforced by KTU. It's still big today. These are songs that were wrote and sung and performed in the 80s that people still make living off of. Judy Torres travels all around the country. Yeah, but to sold out shows and
Yeah.
singing the same songs that are 30 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, that says something about that type of music. I mean, there are freestyle freaks, and there are freestyle shows all around the country now, and they sell out, and the people love it. They love Judy Torres, they love TKA, they love George Lamond, Coro, Cynthia, Johnny O, Fantasia. I can go on, Naomi. I can go on and on. These people are all still working on their efforts from the 80s.
They package him in these collaborative shows where they'll have like 8 artists. They come on, do like 2 or 3 songs, and they keep the show moving. Like when I think about the freestyle, I go back. I can think of groups like Expose and Noel. And
Yes.
would you say it goes even further back to someone like Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force?
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, definitely. Their influences and their contributions are definitely part of that genre. I think you're right on that, and your music by saying that. But I'm amazed, and I think everybody who because when I was at KTU, we would have these freestyle concerts, and these kids would come who are like young, and I'm like, "You like this music?" And they're going, "That's all I heard in my house growing up. This is what my mother played. I love this music." And I started to laugh because that's what happens. Your mom plays the music, you grow up with it, and it's in the house and you hear it. And like you get these kids who weren't even around during freestyle, who love freestyle.
John, I'm going to tell you something that Sean doesn't even know. Okay, when I was in college, I put myself through by owning a small record store. What I used to do on the weekends, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoons, me and my friend Matt LeBeau were the house DJ over at the Fort Hamilton's Officers Club in Brooklyn.
Right.
You know that place is still around.
I'm not familiar with it, but I assume it's something to do. Sounds like it's something to do with the Army.
It is, but they would have, but as if you had a family member, they would have functions as we have weddings, sweet 16,
Right.
all type of stuff. And I would MC. My friend Matt would spin the record. We both select the music, and even though I was a rocker, I had to know my disco and freestyle music back then. And this was like around the right around that time, about the mid '80s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. But you know, all that being said, when I work out and when I run, I listen to classic rock.
Who do you listen to? Who are your bands there?
I used to really be into Aerosmith, but I don't. I would hate to say that I'm just like, I'm at the time where I'm giving it a break. But I love Peter Frampton.
Great.
It was the first concert I ever went to at Madison Square Garden. I like Van Halen, old Van Halen with David Lee Roth. I like the Stones. You know, stuff like that. You know, I have pretty, for someone that worked at a radio station, and you know, we were the #1 dance station in the country. I didn't just listen to that. You know what I mean? I kind of, it's kind of weird because, you know, I would go to KTU and I would hear the dance music all day long, and I would go home in the car and I would listen to rock.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I don't know. You know.
I always say I was brought up on country on one end and rock and metal on the other. And I never really talk about the middle ground, which was my godmother, because I spent so much time with her in the car. She would take me to the mall and stuff like that. And let me tell you, freestyle was all she listened to. So like, I always say, I pray to God that I never like die in a car accident, because if they take my phone and they look through all my music in my phone, you're going to think I'm a complete sociopath. Because I go from Metallica and Slayer to Stevie B and Lanier and George Lamond in my phone.
Right.
It's
right.
It's ridiculous. But I was probably, you know, 11, 12, 13 when all these songs were coming out. And I can remember how gigantic they were. I mean, I looked at my phone. I have 164 freestyle songs on my phone.
Yeah, no, and
no one would ever look at me and ever think that I would be listening to this stuff, you know?
Well, you're not alone. I got Jimi Hendrix and I have the Spice Girls in the same on the same phone.
Johnny, I would never admit that ever again.
I know. Well, I used to, you know, we worked with the Spice Girls. You know, I've interviewed them several times. You know, we used to play all their music. So there was a lot.
It's a great. I like in the freestyle era to kind of like the '80s hair metal era, because they do put out a lot of package tours, and there's 1,500 people every single time.
Freestyle, you know, people ask me often. I get asked, when do you think freestyle will die? And I'm like, really? I said, you can't answer that question. I said, this is '80s, '90s, the zeros. Now we're into the 20s, and it's still going. I said, these artists are still alive. These artists are like in their 50s.
Sure.
And they're performing the same songs, and people are giving them the same love, the same response, and it's just, it's a beautiful thing. It's like this weird mystery, like, you know. And then you say to yourself, well, if it's successful over 30 years, how come they just don't come up with more freestyle songs? You know what I mean?
It's different because, you know, the music does evolve and it does change.
Right.
I had heard last week, and you ever have one of those moments of clarity where it's like you hear something and then everything just falls into place. So I was doing a podcast and someone said to me, the music that you still listen to today is the stuff that you loved when you were 13. And I went, and I had to look back, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, this is the most perfect thing. Because it's still, for me, it's Guns N' Roses, it's Motley Crue, and then it's this stuff. And then it's the country that was out in the 80s. And that's all the stuff that I listened to from that time period. And that's why these shows are so successful, because now people who are going to these freestyle shows couldn't go when they were 13, 14 years old, when the stuff was really popular and really hot. Now they're in their 40s and their 50s, and they have the money that they can go to these shows, and they want to relive a little bit of their youth and all the great music that came from there.
100%. You know, people don't see it this way, but music is like comfort food.
Sure.
You know, they don't view it that way, but it is like comfort food, and it brings you back to a place in your life where you have some really fabulous memories. You know, with family and friends, and music never lets you down.
Yeah.
Never lets you down. It always delivers.
Freestyle is always sometimes called Latin freestyle. Was there another type of freestyle besides Latin freestyle?
You know what? I wouldn't go that way, because what was one of the results of freestyles in the 80s, and I'm older than you guys, so I was able to see this. Freestyle was the bridge that connected I'm talking about the Bronx Yonkers scene, and really where this all came out. Freestyle was the bridge that connected Latins and Italians. That was the music. You know, when I was growing up, they had black clubs, Puerto Rican clubs, you know, and Italian clubs, you know, where, you know, people hanged up, or Irish bars and so on and so forth. People didn't, you know, party together. But when freestyle came, man, the Italians and the Latinos, boom, they had something in common. Take the shirts off, show the gold trains, and just start dancing and sweating. And that was really, to see that happen, that was a really interesting thing. And I saw it I saw it at KTU, because we played the music. You could see it in the demographics. We were an Italian Latin station. That's what KTU was. KTU was an Italian Latin gay station. Those are the people that listened to us. You know what I mean? Those were the groups, and those were the groups we served, and the music we played served those groups. And it was freestyle, and it was house music, and classic disco.
And today, would you say freestyle has evolved into like Pitbull music like that?
I just think freestyle has for many people, freestyle is today's oldies. You know what I mean? You know how
WCBS is going to wind up playing.
I don't know if WCBS will play with it, but it's taken the form, for some older people, it's taken the form of, like, let's say what doo-wop is to, you know, to people in 75 and the 80s. You know what I mean? It's their, you know, it's their oldies. And like what Sean, you know, to what Sean said about the music when you're 13, you know, you take it with you. Right. I think that's a great observation.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I heard that. It really did, because like I'm a big vinyl collector. I love collecting records, and so like for me, I realize now, like, why am I having such a hard time finding these records that I want? And it's from like 91, 92 when they stopped making records and they were doing CDs. Now, like, I'm always on the hunt for everything. I'm always on the hunt for is between 89 and 93.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They just stopped making them, you know? Now I can
I tell you, it's great now, the access that you can have to music, especially if you go on Apple and you get and you get Apple Radio or whatever. But you know, it got to a certain point, you know, when I was on the radio, where I would go home and I would just listen to, you know, sports talk. I wanted to hear voices.
Well, sure. Like the last thing you want to do when you get off stage doing comedy is put on a stand-up set on the way home.
Yeah, that's for
the last thing you want to do. You know how many times my friends would say, "Hey, you're off on Saturday night. You want to go see a comedy show?" I'm like, "Are you out of your fucking mind? I'm not going to a comedy show when I'm off. You out of your mind?" No.
I know. It is.
You gotta turn the brain off after a while.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with comedy going forward? How do you guys see that?
I don't think we're going to be on big stages for a while. I think through the year, personally. I mean, I've sent out some stuff for places in the Midwest because they seem to be a little more open to reopening quicker.
Right.
But they already said 25 to 30% capacity. Pay is going to be cut. Is it worth it? You know, is it worth me driving to Iowa to spend a week out there and then what am I going to do? Break even on the way back? Yeah, it's just not. It's just.
I know, but you got to get on stage.
I'm dying. Yeah. Slow, painful death right now. We're doing Zoom comedy. That's what we're doing now. We're doing Zoom comedy.
Oh, I don't. You know, I didn't realize how affected I would be personally by not being on stage. you know.
Oh yeah. Well, Jeff will tell you, I had great timing. I made the jump to go full-time comedy on Valentine's Day.
Oh my God.
3 weeks
Really?
later, he's not going to be on stage for another year. Yeah, I think it's going to be slow increments, and it's going to take time. And I think it's not going to be some time until, if we're lucky, in 2021 that we'll see maybe full capacity. And I don't think people feel 100% confident until there's some type of vaccination that's gonna, it's gonna give people, where they're gonna want to feel knee to knee, with somebody.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think.
Scary.
Yeah, I definitely think, Jeff and Sean. I think one thing for sure, New York will be the last market to open up.
Yeah.
I think we'll be working outside of New York.
Oh, well, yeah, without question. I mean, I saw an interview with Caroline from Caroline's, and she was like, yeah, we're at the last phase of stage 4.
Yeah, and they said that, entertainment. Yeah.
And if Broadway made the decision to go September 7th, they're going to go along with Broadway. I tend to think.
That's
they're not
that's just tentative right now. They can't keep pushing the bar back further and further. That's just to delay it. If there's an uptick, if we reverse, if we don't move forward at the progress that we're doing, they're just going to keep moving it back. If they're not ready to open Broadway by the middle of September, you're going to see it wiped out for the rest of the year, right from that point on.
I do think in our area we're not going to have it for the rest of the year.
It's really interesting. I mean, because we are the center of it. We are literally, right here. So we're going to be the last to roll out everything.
Yeah.
And the other thing, John, I want to ask you that you brought up this point. I'm waiting to shoot a movie.
Right.
When do you think they're going to start opening up production on being able to do this type of work?
Well, that's a good point. I spoke to I had a conversation with Charles Palminteri the other day, and I figured, if anybody would know, he would know. And he says he hasn't gotten any signals about when it's going to start up or how they're going to do it. It's going to be different. It might be different where they shoot it in more isolated areas.
Crowd scenes. How do you do something like that?
I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, or they're going to have to computer generate crowds, and they're going to use less. Right? They're going to use. I mean, look at the movie Gladiator. That Coliseum scene. That was all computer generated. You know what I mean? They only had like maybe the first 5 rows filled up with people. I mean, they have the means to do it. Then,
a street scene, a restaurant scene. What is it? Every day, these characters in movies, and now it's going to be, no one's in the restaurant anymore. It's just going to be the dialogue between the two principals.
I don't know. Maybe they'll have more movies that are like. You remember The Breakfast Club?
Yeah, sure.
All right. It was shot in the library. That's it. It was the library. Maybe.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
No.
Looking forward to.
No, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, maybe the
shows.
You'll have more dialogue. You'll have more dialogue-driven movies than.
Well, that's one thing that that Chaz told me. He said that he goes, these big productions on Broadway might not be back. It might be more one-man shows like his show.
But if you're going to do that, you have the one-man show. What are you going to do as audience? Are you still going to pack the audience, or are you going to go 25% of the audience as well?
Well, let me put it this way. If you can get up to, if you could do one-man shows and you have 50% of the audience, you definitely have reduced your cost more than 50. I mean, you know what it costs to do the Lion King or the Aladdin on Broadway? You have to have a full house, right? So if this business goes towards one-man shows, what is it? Have you ever seen Chaz's show?
Yeah.
All right, it's him. It's him in a chair. That's all it is. It's him and a chair, and it's unbelievably entertaining. It's a work of art, and he comes up there. He has a chair and a microphone, and that's it. That's his show, and he does the show, and it's unbelievable. So it can be done. You know what I mean? It can be done, and maybe that's what the future looks like.
There was a club in I think it's maybe it's either Arkansas or Kansas that is selling tickets for the first show back. It's a music act, and the place holds 1,129 people at capacity. They're selling 229 tickets for the show, and they showed the seating chart. And think of it as like a smaller scale Beacon Theater. Okay, so it's 1,000 seats. What they're doing is they're doing 2 on the aisle, 5 empty seats, 2 on the 2 more, 5 empty seats, 4 more, 5 empty seats, and then they're skipping a row in between.
And this is comedy?
It's music. So think of it that way. That's what they're trying to push for, a music act.
I could see you enjoying music that way. I don't know what the laughs would be like as a comedian.
Music, you can still pull that off. I don't know how you can
Try
to do that.
Try that type of seating at the St. George Theater.
Yeah,
The St. George Theater, you could still probably fit about 800 people in there, and I'll have plenty of room, and you won't even look packed.
St. George Theater, right, sits 1,800 people, and when nobody's there, it is cavernous because the ceilings are so high.
sure.
Oh, forget about it.
Right. So it looks good if you could just say fill the first section on the bottom. Then that's okay. But when you start having to spread people out in that place, it could be brutal, and it's not conducive to laughter.
Well, I mean, let's take it one step further. What about possibly doing comedy outdoors?
Well, that's what's happening now.
I saw that today. I actually scouted a place in my hometown here. I'm like, you know what? I can definitely do something here. It's got a huge little amphitheater covered. It's huge open grounds. You can space people out.
John,
and Jeff does his show in Linden.
I had both John and Sean, and I'll have you guys there this year. But so far, I haven't been told no. They just haven't said yes either. They haven't said we're not doing it, but they just keep saying let's see, and I have a feeling we will be able to do something. We will probably have to space it out.
Yeah, I think the governor opening the beaches this week is going to be a big turning point for a lot of things like that.
And Atlantic City is doing the at the AC Jokes. Those guys are doing a drive-in outdoor show this weekend.
Right.
I will tell you this: the casinos at a certain point will go forward. I don't think they're going to have a choice.
After June 1st, they're already starting to take reservations now for after June 1st for hotels.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have an August date at Foxwoods. Well, it's on August 29th. So
Hope and pray.
Who knows? You know what I mean? The only one thing is we don't know. And, the interesting part about this is, when do you let people out? What's the tipping point? What's the tipping point where keeping people in will totally destroy the economy? And then, keeping people at home will be saving lives. There's a tipping point.
Sure.
Where you're going to have to let people out, because people are going to either what's your option? Die from the virus or die from poverty?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Georgia and Texas just announced that their numbers still are dropping after they reopened slightly. So,
well, the good news is, Sean and Jeff, the good news is this: as quickly as this came, with the grace of God, maybe there will be some type of miracle out of nowhere, where they figure out how to control it, or how to suppress it, or how to treat it. And why I say that, and why I have hope, is because typically, a country has a problem, like United States, China, or England. This is a world problem. You have the whole world working on this right now.
Right.
And the whole world very rarely works on anything. So now that the whole world is working on this, I expect something to happen, because you very rarely see the world united on anything.
Right.
And
just they share information in the right way too.
Yeah.
For the betterment of everything.
So we'll see what happens. But this is, very interesting dynamics. Yes,
These are
Yeah.
crazy times. But John, we so appreciative of your time. Thank
Oh,
you
no.
so much for coming on and doing this, man.
Thank you. How long you guys been doing this?
This is
You know what?
episode what?
We
12?
have timing. We have great timing. We started this at the beginning of the year, right before
Yeah.
the pandemic started.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You
Yeah,
I
guys,
mean, in a weird way.
Yeah, we have a beautiful studio, but we're stuck in our man caves right now.
yeah. You got to see this when this is over. You'll come in. You got to see the studio where we normally shoot this out of. We do it at Be Terrific Studio in Secaucus, and sure can tell you, it is top of the line. It is so great, and we'd love to have you in sometime.
Yeah, sure. And how funny is Jared?
He's great.
I love Jared.
Oh my God, I really enjoy his comedy. I get to work with him a lot at Stand Up New York.
Right.
Very, very funny. Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
I'm gonna eat dinner
So am I.
because Sean, this is I'll do my invitation to the pandemic. Go to bed, wake up, look at my wife, and ask her what's for dinner. Every 5 minutes, what's for dinner?
On that note, we thank you so much, John. Thank you, man.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on. Anytime. I hope to see you guys
Thanks,
soon.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Share the podcast with us, everybody. Please share. Let your friends know. Thank our guests, Johnny Solano, Goumba Johnny, and Jared Freid. We really appreciate it. Parting word, Sean.
Just from George Carlin, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you soon.
Until next
Bye,
week,
everybody.
everybody.